Hello everyone, welcome to Analytics with Asmi.
In today's video, we are tackling something every Power BI user cares about, that is optimizing report performance. We all know how frustrating it can be when reports are slow. Visual take longer time to load or refresh time seems endless. But the good news, there are proven techniques to speed up the things up. So in this video, I am going to walk you through 40 checklist points covering everything from query optimization, DAX tweaks, model adjustment to report and refresh performance. So let's dive in. Before moving ahead, I just want you to request you all to join my all social media handles where I regularly posting content related to the interview and latest job opening. Links are given in the description box. Alright, let's kick things off with one of the most crucial steps in optimizing Power BI performance, that is Power Query Optimization. By fine-tuning how you bring data into a model, you can drastically improve both the speed and efficiency of your reports. Let's break it down step by step. Point number 1. Amend dates and column types. First, we want to focus on cleaning up and optimizing our data types. For example, if you are working with the decimal values, try to limit your data no more than 4 decimal places. Not only does this reduce the size of your data set, but it also improves the performance. Instead of using the decimal data type, use fixed decimal when possible. This helps with compression and reduce the memory footprint of your data. Next, when it comes to date and time fields, it's best to separate them into a distinct field, one for date and one for time. This may seem like a small change, but it makes query faster, since Power BI does not have to process the combined date and time format each time. Point number 2. Use imported columns and avoid calculated columns. Now let's talk about the calculated columns. While they may seem convenient, using too many of them in your data model can slow down the performance because they recalculate every time your data refreshes. Instead, it is recommended to create a calculated column directly in a Power Query or at the source database level. This reduces the amount of real-time processing Power BI has to do and speed things up significantly. Number 3. Database normalization. If you are working with the database, you will want to normalize it. Here in the slide, you can see that from the flat file, we have converted into a data model in a star schema. Database normalization reduces the redundancy and maintains the data integrity. The key benefits here are smaller table sizes, faster query performance, easier updates when modifying your data. Essentially, a normalized database makes it simpler for the Power BI to pull in the data efficiently. Checklist point number 4, that is query reduction. When using direct query, you get the real-time results, but every interaction with the visualization sends a query to the data source. This can slow down the things, especially with your large data sets. Power BI has an inbuilt feature to help the reduce number of queries sent back to the data source. So be sure to take advantage of those. Here you can see in a current file, here you have an option of a query reduction, and here also you have an option of reduce number of queries sent by. You have to enable this. Point number 5, remove redundant columns. One common issue is loading more than data you actually need. For example, if you only need a daily sales data, there is no need to load a hourly data. This excess data can really bog up the performance. Be strategic, remove columns or data you don't plan to use in your reports or dashboards. Point number 6, load summary data. Whenever possible, load aggregated or summary data instead of a detailed data. This is especially important for the larger data sets. Loading summary data not only speed up the performance but also make it easier to work with a large data set in your report. Point number 7, query folding for large data set. Ensure query folding is enabled for as many transformations as possible. Query folding pushes transformation back to the data source. So the heavy lifting happens before the data even reaches the Power BI, improving both load time and refresh performance. Point number 8, disable load for the helper tables. If you have a helper tables that are not used directly in your report, make sure to disable their load to the model. You can do this by unchecking the enable load option in a Power Query. This keeps them out to a final data model and speed up the performance. Checklist point number 9, use exclude from refresh. Avoid including unnecessary tables in your refresh process if they are not required to be updated frequently. For that, you have to disable this include in report refresh for a particular table. Point number 10 in Power Query optimization is external Power BI tools. Take advantage of these external tools like Tabular Editor, Vertipack Analyzer and DAX Studio. These tools can help you to maintain and optimize your models, and they integrate seamlessly with the Power BI desktop. Now that we have optimized our data in a Power Query, let's move on to the next crucial step, which is optimizing the data model. A well-structured data model is a backbone of a performance of a Power BI report. In this part, we are going to explore the key techniques to streamline your data model for a better performance. Point number 12 is use star schema. The first and most important rule for optimizing your data model is to use a star schema. The star schema ensures that your queries are more efficient, improving both speed and performance. So break your data into a fact tables for transaction or events and dimension tables for descriptive attributes like date, product or customer. Point number 13, limit data model. Always aim to reduce the size of your data model. This means removing any columns that are not essential to your reports. For instance, if a certain column are not used in your visualization or calculation, remove them to lighten the load on a Power BI. Fewer columns means faster performance and smaller file size. Point number 14, push data transformation upstream. Whenever possible, push your data transformation upstream. This means doing the heavy lifting either in your data source or a Power Query, rather than relying on a Power BI engine. Whether it's a calculation, formatting or grouping or handling these operations in a Power Query level ensures that Power BI doesn't waste resources on the redundant processing during the report generation. This can significantly boost your report performance. Point number 15, move row level logic to a Power Query. Another great tip is to handle any row level logic such as if-then calculations within the Power Query rather than using DAX in a Power BI. This reduces the overhead in your data model, making it faster and more efficient. Point number 16, use numeric keys for relationships. When defining the relationship between the tables, always use a numeric keys rather than the text keys. Numeric keys are processed much faster in Power BI than the text-based keys. For example, using customer ID as an integer rather than customer name as a text field for relationship will improve the performance of your model. Point number 17, data compression. Power BI also offers a data compression which can reduce the size of your data model and improve the performance using Vertipack engine. To take full advantage of this, use a smaller data types whenever possible. For example, instead of using a decimal data type, switch to int64 for better compression. The smaller the data type, the less memory is required, which leads to a faster report performance. Point number 18, avoid many-to-many relationship in a data model. Be mindful of many-to-many relationship in your data model. This relationship can lead to slower performance and even ambiguous results. Whenever possible, avoid them by restructuring your data tables to use one-to-many relationship. To avoid this, you can create a bridge table. This will ensure a smoother and faster querying within a Power BI. Point number 19, use bidirectional relationships cautiously. Be cautious when using bidirectional relationships. While they can be useful, they may lead to performance issues or unexpected results, especially in the complex model. Use them only when absolutely necessary and always test your model's performance to ensure it is not slowing down. Point number 20, disable auto detect relationship. Turning off auto-detect relationship in Power BI improves performance by reducing unnecessary calculation and relationships that Power BI might create automatically. It gives you more control over the model, allowing you manually define only the essential relationship, which optimizes report loading and query performance. Now that we have covered the Power Query and data model optimization. Now let's dive into another crucial area, which is optimizing DAX expressions. DAX is a powerful language, but if you not use it carefully, it can slow down your reports. Let's explore a few key tips to ensure your DAX queries are running as efficiently as possible. Point number 21 is simplify DAX expressions. First, always aim to simplify your DAX expression. The more complex and nested your functions are, the slower they will run. Instead of writing long and complicated formulas, break them into a simpler steps. Focus on using efficient functions that return the same result but with less overhead. This helps Power BI process your queries faster and with few resources. Checklist point number 22. Use measure instead of calculated columns. One common mistake is relying on a calculated column instead of measures. Calculated columns add to your data model size because they physically store values for each row in a table. On the other hand, measures only calculate values when needed and don't store any data. Using measures whenever possible will not only reduce your model size but also improve the performance of your calculations. Point number 23. Minimize iterator functions. Iterator functions like sumx and averagex are extremely useful, but they can also slow things down if overused. These functions iterate over each row in a table, perform calculations, and then aggregate the results. This process consumes significant processing power and time. So only use the iterator functions when absolutely necessary and try to simplify your logic where possible to avoid this extra overhead. Point number 24. Convert multiple measures to variables. Another excellent DAX optimization technique is using variables. Instead of writing a DAX expression that calculates the same value multiple times, store those intermediate results in variables using the var and return functions. This prevents redundant calculation and improves the overall efficiency of your DAX formula. For example, calculating a sum or a count once and then reusing it in your formula will reduce the time Power BI takes to process your query. Point number 25. Optimize the context transitions. Be mindful of context transitions. In DAX, context is crucial because it determines how your formula are calculated. However, unnecessary context transition can slow down the performance. For instance, if you are using a calculate within your DAX expression, you are changing the evaluation context. While calculate is a powerful function, overusing it can create more context transitions than needed. The goal is to minimize these transactions and keep your expression as streamlined as possible. Now we have covered Power Query, data model, DAX optimization. Let's move to the crucial part of a Power BI report, that is the report view. How you design and optimize the visual on your report can have a significant impact on the performance. So let's explore how to make your report as efficient and responsive as possible. Point number 26 is minimize visuals. First, minimize the number of visuals on your report. While it can be tempting to add multiple elements to make your dashboard look rich, too many visuals can slow down your report. Instead, combine KPIs, means key performance indicators, into fewer visuals. For instance, you can use multi-row cards to display multiple KPIs in a single visual instead of creating a separate visual for each one. Fewer visuals mean fewer calculations for Power BI speeding in your report. Point number 27. Avoid excessive slicers. Next, be careful with your slicers. While they are great for filtering your data, slicer can cause a performance bottlenecks, especially when there are too many. Instead, use the filter pane whenever possible. It's more efficient. If you must use the slicer, prefer single drop-down instead of a list. Drop-down slicers reduce query load compared to the list slicers, helping your report run faster. Point number 28. Use performance analyzer to check a visual load. One of the most powerful tools you have is the built-in performance analyzer in Power BI. This tool shows you exactly which visual or elements are causing performance delays. By recording your report's behavior, you can pinpoint slow loading visuals and make informed decisions on how to optimize them. Point number 29. Use Microsoft certified visuals. When choosing the visuals, always opt for Microsoft certified visuals. These visuals are optimized for performance and load faster than custom visuals. They have passed Microsoft rigorous testing standards, ensuring that they work seamlessly with Power BI, so your reports will render faster and more efficiently. Point number 30. Remove unnecessary visual interactions. By default, Power BI enables interaction between all visuals on a report page. While this can be helpful for cross-filtering, it also consumes a lot of resources and slow down the performance. If you don't need this interaction, it's best to turn it off. You can easily disable unnecessary visual interactions in Power BI desktop, which will lighten the load and improve the rendering speed. You can find it in options, and here in a current file, in a query reduction, you will get this option. You have to disable this. Point number 31. Use apply all slicer and clear all slicers. For reports with larger dataset, consider using techniques like incremental rendering. You can apply this by enabling the apply all slicer option, which applies multiple filters at once instead of executing a query for each one. Point number 33. Visual aggregations. Wherever possible, use visual level aggregations or summary data. Instead of showing detailed raw data in your visuals, display high level aggregated data like sum or averages. Aggregating data reduces query complexity, allowing Power BI to run your report much faster. Point number 34. Apply incremental rendering techniques. For larger data sets, you can use incremental rendering. Means you can organize your report or dashboard page so that it displays high level data first, then gradually progresses to a more detailed view. So first you give the overview, then detail, then more details, like that. Point number 35. Use drill through buttons and bookmarks. You can also implement drill throughs and lazy loading to display summary data first and gradually show more detail. This way, your report loads efficiently without overwhelming the system with too much data at once. You can also choose for bookmarks and buttons. Now we have covered optimizing Power Query, the data model, DAX and the report view. Now let's talk about the essential aspect of Power BI report performance, that is data refresh optimization. Optimizing how your data is refreshed can have a huge impact on both report speed and efficiency, especially when working with larger data sets. Here are some key strategies to make your data refresh as efficient as possible. Point number 36. Schedule incremental data refresh. The first step is to schedule incremental data refresh. Instead of refreshing your entire dataset every time, we can have a long time with large dataset. You can set up incremental refresh. This allows you to update only a new or a modified data, reducing the amount of data processed during each refresh and significantly speeding up the process. Point number 37. Efficient data source connectivity. Ensure you are using the most efficient data source connectivity for your report. Power BI offers two main modes, direct query and import. Use import mode when you need to work with a large dataset and want the best performance. On the other hand, direct query is great for real-time data connections, but may slow down your performance as each interaction queries the data source. Choose the appropriate mode based on your report needs to optimize the performance. Point number 38. Refresh only necessary tables. Instead of refreshing the entire data model, you can go for target refresh. You can refresh just one or few tables that have updated data. This reduces the time and resources needed for data refreshes, especially in large model with multiple tables. It will improve the efficiency and optimize the resource usage as well. Checklist point number 39. Simplify row level security. If you are using the row level security to control the access to your data, make sure to keep it simple. Overly complex RLS setup with too many lookups and joins can drastically slow down your performance. Stick to a clean star schema when applying RLS and avoid complex rules wherever possible. This will help to maintain a fast refresh times while still keeping your data secure. The last checklist point, which is point number 40, is regularly review and monitor. As your dataset grows, it's important to revisit your data model and DAX formulas to ensure they are still optimized. What works with a smaller dataset might not work for a larger, more complex data. So always aim for a simpler and efficient formulas. Once your report is deployed, continue to monitor its performance, gather feedback from users, track loading times, and be ready to make adjustment as necessary. Performance tuning is an ongoing process, especially as your data evolves and user needs change. And that's it. So by following these 40 best practices and tips, you will create Power BI report that are not only powerful but also highly performant. Thank you for watching. I hope this video helps you to get the most of your Power BI experience. If you find it helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more tips and tutorials. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.